This is the Main Event Marks Dark Side of Wrestling History. Vince Russo's legacy in professional wrestling is one of brilliant chaos. As a key creative force in the WWF during the height of the Attitude Era, he is credited with pioneering the short-term, shock-value booking style that helped the company defeat WCW. Yet, for all of his undeniable talent in driving ratings, Russo's career is ultimately defined by professional instability, dramatic failures, and a profound inability to sustain relationships. The first and perhaps most damaging aspect of Russo's dark side was his impulsive decision to quit the WWF at the peak of his power in 1999. He then jumped to rival promotion WCW as head writer, promising to fix its sinking ship. Instead, his tenure was a disaster marked by nonsensical storylines, chaotic booking, and the constant blurring of reality and fiction. The most telling sign of his professional instability was his bizarre, short-lived relationship with the company. Russo quit and returned to WCW multiple times within a single year, unable to handle the corporate structure or the resistance to his ideas. He oversaw a period where WCW's creative direction spiraled into absurdity, accelerating the company's demise. After WCW collapsed, Russo's career continued on an erratic track with TNA, Total Nonstop Action Wrestling. For nearly a decade, his influence produced both highs and lows. He was responsible for controversial storylines that generated buzz, but also for deeply criticized angles that alienated fans and made the product feel amateurish and directionless. The constant, unpredictable shifts in TNA's creative direction, often attributed to his unique brand of Crash TV, ultimately prevented the company from ever achieving mainstream credibility. The cycle of instability finally culminated in him quitting TNA, after which he found himself completely blackballed from the industry, having alienated virtually every major power broker. His career of conflict created intense and legendary real-life feuds, most famously with fellow bookers Eric Bischoff and Jim Cornette. These relationships devolved into bitter, years-long personal disputes, where Cornette in particular has mainstreamed a campaign of immense criticism, holding Russo responsible for damaging the traditional art of wrestling. These feuds are not just professional disagreements, they are high-profile, public displays of the deep philosophical divide and personal animosity Russo provokes. Unable to return to a decision-making role in wrestling, Vince Russo now uses his podcast as a platform to mock and critique the industry that once embraced him. This position as a perpetual outsider who once held the keys to the kingdom but lost them through his own behavior and extreme temperament is the final, sad chapter of his career, a testament to the fact that his greatest creation, the chaos he booked, ultimately devoured his own professional life. Jim Cornette is arguably the most brilliant and volatile mind in modern wrestling history. As a manager, booker, and historian, his dedication to the art of the business is legendary. But that same obsessive passion has always been tainted by a combustible temper and a rigid refusal to compromise. The dark side of Cornette's career is not found in failure of vision, but in his profound inability to control his emotions, leading to a long history of self-sabotage, professional instability, and public feuds. The most critical business failure of Cornette's career was the collapse of Smoky Mountain Wrestling, SMW. As owner and chief booker, Cornette was determined to run a throwback territory promotion based on traditional Southern wrestling values. While critically acclaimed, his steadfast refusal to adapt to the changing aesthetic of the mid-90s, coupled with financial pressures, proved fatal. SMW became a monument to his rigid principles, demonstrating that his brilliant, old-school vision was commercially unviable in this burgeoning national landscape. Cornette's legendary lack of control over his anger and his mouth has been the defining destructive force of his career. This volatility has led to a litany of quitting multiple jobs across every major promotion, often leaving over creative differences that were amplified by his explosive temperament. The most decisive professional setback came when his lack of self-control cost him his lucrative position as the head of the WWE development system, Ohio Valley Wrestling, OVW. Cornette was fired in 2005 after a physical altercation with a young trainee, marking the definitive moment where his behavior finally outweighed his indispensable value to the largest company in the world. His professional limitations were also exposed in high-profile managerial roles, notably during his time managing Vader in the WWF. Despite Cornette's intense mic skills and dedication, Vader arrived in the company past his physical prime and was never presented as the unstoppable force he was elsewhere. Cornette, for all of his genius, could not salvage a situation where the foundational talent and booking were already compromised. More damagingly, Cornette's anger and lack of filter repeatedly bled into his public life, causing major scandals. He has faced criticism for using racial slurs in interviews and creating mainstream news when he was recorded in a meltdown cussing out a Dairy Queen employee. This incident in particular reveals a deeply unsettling willingness to unleash professional rage on defenseless service workers. Today, this pattern of conflict finds its home on his highly successful podcast. Cornette has become famous for constantly fighting with everyone, leveraging his show as a platform for verbal warfare against modern wrestlers, promotions, and critics. While the resulting controversy fuels his success, the constant, furious nature of his commentary solidifies his reputation as a brilliant yet perpetually angry professional bridge burner whose greatest enemy remains himself. Bill Watts, known as the Cowboy, carved out a legacy as a brilliant but deeply flawed promoter and booker. His Mid-South wrestling territory in the 1980s was widely regarded as one of the best booked and most intense wrestling promotions in the world, marked by logical storylines and strong characters. Yet, Watts' career is shadowed by both the failure of his business ventures and the self-inflicted wounds of his professional prejudices. Watts' downfall began with the collapse of his own creation, Mid-South Wrestling, later UWF. Despite his critical success, Watts struggled to transition the regional powerhouse into a national promotion capable of competing with the growing dominance of the WWF. His unwillingness to adapt to changing television and touring demands, coupled with his old-school, rigid philosophy, ultimately led to financial struggles. A critical blow came when he lost his top stars and was forced to sell the promotion to Jim Crockett Promotions, JCP, in 1987. Watts, the man who prided himself on self-sufficiency and control, was suddenly working for the very regional company he had sought to surpass, marking a crushing end to his tenure as an independent promotional kingpin. Watts was surprisingly hired as the Executive Vice President of World Championship Wrestling, WCW, in 1992, giving him the opportunity to run a major company. However, his tenure was short-lived and disastrous. Watts, known for being uncompromising and often insensitive, gave an interview that year where he made blatant racist and homophobic remarks, openly sharing prejudiced views about wrestlers and the industry. The public backlash was swift and severe. In a climate where media scrutiny was increasing, WCW faced immense pressure and ultimately fired Watts due to the controversy caused by his discriminatory comments. This incident demonstrated that his old-school toughness was often inspired by deep-seated, often professional beliefs that had no place in mainstream entertainment. Following this dramatic firing, Watts received a final chance in the major leagues when he was brought into the WWF in 1995 as a booker. In this less visible but still powerful role, he was part of the creative team during a critical transitional period for the company. However, true to his pattern of self-sabotage, Watts quit the job abruptly. His rigid booking philosophy clashed with the more cartoonish, rapidly evolving direction the WWF was taking. Watts, unable and unwilling to compromise his traditional vision, walked away from one of the most coveted creative positions in the industry, effectively ending his career as a hands-on power broker. Despite the professional missteps, the financial failures, and the cultural controversies that repeatedly derailed his career, the wrestling establishment eventually recognized his profound impact on the industry. In 2009, Bill Watts was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame, a final symbolic acknowledgement of his undeniable brilliance as a talent scout and promoter whose work laid the groundwork for modern professional wrestling. John Laurinaitis, known in the ring as Johnny Ace, has a career that serves as a study in contradiction. While he held one of the most powerful corporate positions in WWE, his path to that power was paved with professional setbacks, contentious feuds, and, eventually, a catastrophic failure of conduct. His influence behind the scenes was immense, yet it is in that role that the darker aspects of his career truly emerged, culminating in a disgraced exit from the industry. The paradox of his career began in the ring. While he was a capable worker, Laurinaitis never managed to get over in America on a mainstream level. He was perhaps best known for his run in WCW in the late 1980s as half of the Dynamic Dudes with Shane Douglas, a pair of neon-clad, skateboarding babyfaces who were openly mocked by fans and critics alike. He always lived in the shadow of his brother Joe, who achieved legendary status as Road Warrior Animal. The only place he was truly appreciated and given a genuine push was in All Japan Pro Wrestling, where he became a respected tag team star, revealing that the respect he craved had to be earned abroad, not at home. Following the collapse of WCW, Laurinaitis secured a powerful backstage position in WWE. His true power grew when he strategically ascended the corporate ranks, eventually replacing the highly popular and deeply respected Jim Ross as the head of talent relations. The prevailing sentiment was that Laurinaitis was installed precisely because he was seen as more of a yes man for Vince McMahon, prioritizing compliance and corporate demand over the genuine talent advocacy and nurturing that Ross was known for. This shift fundamentally altered the culture of WWE's talent management. Laurinaitis' tenure as head of talent relations was characterized by controversial and damaging decisions. He played a key role in the firing of legendary booker Jim Cornette from the developmental territory Ohio Valley Wrestling, OVW, replacing him with the often reluctant and less invested Paul Heyman. Furthermore, his philosophy on women's wrestling was a notorious step backwards. He spearheaded the infamous Divas Search, opting to hire female models to be wrestlers, and most of them were terrible in the ring. This strategy emphasized looks over skill, earning widespread disdain from fans and actively setting back the progress of in-ring women's wrestling for years. The defining and final dark chapter of his career centered on serious allegations of professional and sexual misconduct. The scandals involved alleged abuse of power and sexual misconduct, surfacing in 2022, detailing a pattern of corporate coercion against female employees. These devastating claims brought an abrupt and definitive end to his tenure, leading to him being fired from WWE. John Laurinaitis' career is therefore not remembered for the talent that he helped discover or the matches he wrestled, but for the corrosive, unchecked power he wielded, a power that ultimately destroyed his own standing in the industry. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, comment with your thoughts down below on all of this, as well as suggestions for future episodes. This has been the Main Event Mark's Dark Side of Wrestling History.